Hi, welcome or welcome back to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and today I am doing a tag. I'm refilming a tag that I filmed originally, meaning to post it before I went on a trip to Portland, Oregon, and I didn't want to leave you without anything that week, so I tried to do this video, uploaded it. There was no audio. When I first was editing, there was audio. When I uploaded to YouTube, there wasn't any audio. And I ended up not being able to rescue it. And I had been talking about how excited I was to go to Portland, and I thought it's time to just redo the tag. So here I am. This is take two, and hopefully you'll get to see and hear this one this time. So this is In Your Wildest Dreams book tag. This tag was created by Heather at Heather Reads, and I've been tagged twice in the last few months. I was tagged in May by Katherine at Raspberry Reads, and I was tagged in the month of September by Mimi at It's Mimi Duong. And I am so grateful to both Katherine and Mimi for tagging me. I've been really excited to do this one, and hopefully we'll have a nice little chat about my wildest bookish dreams. Question number 1. Your fantasy time and place to read. It's not so much a fantasy because it's actually kind of realistic, but it's fantasy in the sense that it's just not in my natural tendency. I think the most magical, and I think I'm going to approach this as like, what is the most magical time to read? And I think the most magical time to read is in like the twilight, the pre-dawn hours, in that transition between the nighttime creatures and the morning creatures. So there's probably this really magical time, and I usually miss it because I am asleep. I'm not a super early morning riser. And I think that the time in which the night critters are ending their activities and the morning critters are waking up and starting their day, I think that time of day to see that transition in nature is so magical. So in like my wildest fantasy, in a world where I am a morning person, I would be able to get up at 4 a.m. and be out in nature and see that transition between night and day, and that quiet, the stillness, but like being exposed to the natural environment that I don't get to be exposed to. I would love to read like under still like moonlight, that transition of like maybe starting out reading under the moonlight and then see the moon go and the sun rise. And there's so many possums, and I'm not a fan of possums, but kind of like seeing those critters go into like back into nesting, and then start to hear the birds waking up and singing that bird song, early morning bird song. Must be so like wonderful to see, to hear. So yeah, my fantasy place to read probably be in nature in the morning, and if I could like escape into just a really beautiful natural scene, where I would get to experience that, that would be lovely. So maybe in my wildest dreams, I could like close my eyes and transport myself in that time of day, of, well, not day, but of night, and see the transition from night to day, and just like be able to transport myself physically to just a different part of the natural world each time. That would be amazing. Get to see all like the different climates and critters everywhere. Question number 2, your fantasy personal library. Again, I guess I'm kind of thinking realistically, and it's gonna take me probably a little bit to like get my fantastical, magical, wildest juices flowing. Um, I would like to have a personal library, and I think like, oh yeah, I would have it in my house. I want to renovate my attic and have like my personal library, like my attic, like a library. But I guess if I'm thinking wildest dreams, maybe what I would do instead would be to build a tree house. I have this huge tree in my backyard, and it's like a beautiful oak. And I'm protective of it. I'm protective of it because I think it's beautiful. And it is home to a lot of critters. I mean, there's squirrels and birds and all sorts of birds just kind of spend their time nesting in it, and the squirrels just like love it so much. And I'm not a big fan of squirrels, but I'm protective of like the life that the tree creates, like in this habitat and ecosystem in my backyard. So maybe instead of like thinking about my attic inside my house, maybe I would want to within it carve out like a space for a tree house where I could not disturb the creatures, but be maybe build up somehow from the tree. Um, it's my wildest dream, so we'd have to like just study the best way to preserve the natural parts of the tree, but maybe a tree house would be a really fun way to have a library. And if it wasn't possible to have a treehouse library, but if it's my wildest dreams, it would be possible, right? So I'm gonna stick with it. I was gonna say if it's not possible, then maybe I could build a personal library, like maybe create like a cave in my backyard and have like this like dome with like all of like the library. It's like a weather resistant dome. But I'm gonna stick with the treehouse because I think that would be my favorite. Um, Question number 3. Imagine you build a bookshop. What would you call it? I've already mentioned this to my husband. Like, it's kind of like in my wildest dreams, if it were to ever happen where I were to retire into like having a shop, like and like if that shop just happened to be a bookstore, what would I call it? And I always say like we would call it Belmont's Books and Bocadillos. Um, what merch would you sell? So by calling it Books and Bocadillos, it would be like a bookstore cafe. So in the cafe area, um, perhaps we would do like seasonal menus with all like local, vegan, plant-based. I would probably work with my local restaurant owners and maybe have like different menus and maybe have just the local vegan community be a part um, of this like cafe and what's available for lunch. And it would probably be just like a lunch cafe, and then it would be like a coffee shop in the evenings, maybe like some spirits, maybe like cocktails and things like that. And in the evenings, but the menus, I would try to like have different literary menus. I'm kind of thinking like the Alamo Drafthouse, when I was a college student or grad school student at UT Austin, I used to really like the way the Alamo Drafthouse had the Saturday morning cartoons. So something like that, like where they have themes and like you come and like people would go watch cartoons and there'd be a set menu like cereal and people would go in their pajamas. So something like where it's kind of like the culture, like you would have a set kind of theme, time, menu, and people could, if it's an early morning thing, people could go in their pajamas, or if it's a theme thing, people could dress up. So that would be really fun. I'd also like to have like writers and cookbook cooks and authors come and maybe do some like maybe do some cool menus for fiction, like the new releases. I'm thinking like cozy mysteries, like those foodie cozy mysteries. We would have a lot of fun with those, creating a special menu, and maybe when the author comes to talk about the book, we would have like a family style sit down, or like whatever it was that the cozy mystery was about. Sometimes like if it was a cupcake mystery, we could have like special cupcakes, or um like a patisserie kind of a theme. If it was like thinking like Vivian Tian, the Noodle House mystery, then it would be like amazing Chinese food, or like the cozy mystery series that I've been enjoying recently with Mia Pimananzala, and her Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery series. Like all of that amazing like Filipino food would be center stage. And available. Like we'd have a whole menu. So that would be really fun. Um, I'd also like to like organize the books. So we would have fiction and nonfiction and cookbooks, of course. But in like the literary one, like the fiction, I'd like to have it organized. Definitely have like the foodie ones, like anything that is like foodie all together, and then the rest just have them um I don't know. I guess I'm still thinking like how would I organize it? But I like when bookstores organize their books by region. So like maybe you would have different regions, countries, cultures, like kind of arranged in that way. Um, so that would be really fun to see like the layout, and like whether it's where it's set, like the setting. I guess a strong sense of place, like books set in a certain place and have that place be where you would find the books. So I think that would be really fun. What merch would you sell? Definitely sell like coffee mugs, like foodie kind of things, maybe like disposable, not disposable, reusable cutlery, um, straws, um, I'm thinking like cups like this, um, bookmarks. I like totes. I think it would be really cool to have like a fanny pack. Um, like if a bookstore sold a fanny pack, I'd probably buy it. So I think those fanny packs are so cool. Where when you're like exercising or working out, sometimes you just want to have something where you would be able to just be hands free and like have your stuff in like your fanny pack while you're reading. Um, so that would be really cool. What else? In terms of merch, I think that's, well, hoodies. I love a hoodie. So maybe some hoodies, some t-shirts, basic stuff like that. What features? We've already talked about like the cafe. I also agree with Mimi. Mimi talked about stationery and how important it would be to have a bookstore that had a great selection of stationery. And I concur 100%, Mimi. Definitely. I agree. My bookstore would also have a a stationery section where you could go and sit and doodle your heart's content, try out all the pens, get like, like make sure that the pen that you are buying is the pen that is for you. When I was in Portland, I visited this Japanese bookstore, and it was really, really cool. They had an amazing stationery selection, and it was like that where you could try out all the markers and the pens and the pencils, and it's really, really cool. But I would probably have like chairs and like maybe like a sleek table, and people could sit and doodle and really try out their pens and the paper and things like that. Question number 4. Who is one person, not a booktuber, with whom you can have a good conversation about books? It's so hard to pick just one person. I ended up picking 4 because I'm thinking about the people in my real life whom I talk about books. And I have a niece, and she is a big reader, and I really, really enjoy talking books with her. She reads like darker. She likes the dark literary fiction, some horror. She's not into science fiction very much, but she's more like literary and horror. And we exchanged some recommendations. Like I recommended Jawbone by Monica Ojeda, and she enjoyed it. She said that book really, really like was unexpected, and I mean I really loved that book, so I highly recommended it, and she liked it. She just said it was like intense, and so I follow her Goodreads, and we exchange recommendations, and sometimes she takes my book recommendations, sometimes she doesn't, and I usually take most of her recommendations, but there's been times when I feel like a book maybe, like she's read one recently that I was like, oh, that might be a little bit too dark for me, too bleak for me at this time. So I might read it later, but sometimes I just try to have a balance. I'm already like reading a lot of heavy books sometimes. So I, kind of try to not go full like dark and heavy all the time. I have a friend, she's like I think she's the only, well, no, I have a couple of friends who are also like viewers. And so my friend, Mika, she is a friend that I really enjoy talking books with, and recently went to Houston and visited her, and we went to Brussels bookstore together, and we are just enablers to each other. Like we both just enable book buying. So I don't know, Mika, I don't think that I'm necessarily like a great person to take to a bookstore, because I'm going to enable you to buy all the books. But yeah, we have a lot of fun, and I enjoy her recommendations because she is a big nonfiction reader, and we both enjoy nonfiction. She reads like very like academic, and I like that, but I also try to read some fiction because again, I kind of try to have this balance. And so it's funny because I sometimes recommend fiction. Like one time I recommended like a really silly fiction. I recommended The Hollow Kingdom, and I don't know if she read it, but I recommended it because I told her it's just really, really silly and it's really funny. So I thought like that might be just something outside of her comfort zone. So I enjoy talking with her about books and exchanging recommendations. And she always has really great nonfiction books. Every time she recommends a nonfiction, I end up ordering it and adding it to my TBR. And she's really put me in the right direction a lot of times with the nonfiction picks. And we also read a lot of like similar stuff because we're both social workers, and so we share like passion for social justice, and so we both tend to lean heavily into social justice issues. My friend Marty, she is a bookstore owner, and she recommends books more often to me than I do to her. And because we're both bookish people, we always talk about books, and we kind of live in that. Like, that's kind of our relationship is mostly in books. So we both enjoy bookish conversations, and she runs a book club at her bookstore, and I participate in her book club every once and again. I've missed a couple of books this year, but whenever I can, I'm there, and I'm actually going to be there this week, I hope, for a book club, and I'm really excited for it. So a lot of our conversations are about book club. We also are co-hosting a silent reading party. So I've done the silent reading party. This will be my third year doing it, but this is going to be my second year co-hosting with Marty, and we're both working on this together, and it's always really fun to have a project with her, and to be able to host something like this at her bookstore is really, really exciting. So we share stuff like that. And then I have another friend who's also in book club, and we can spend hours talking about books, and we read very similarly, so we always exchange book recommendations. We've done a day trip once together, and did like a bookstore tour, and she's really cool because she'll always say, don't buy the book. If she has it, she'll say like, I'll loan it to you first. So she's really kind that way. She's a really kind person, really lovely to talk to, and I could spend hours and hours and hours just talking to her about what we're reading or what we want to read. Yeah, we've talked about doing like book swaps together because we read so similarly, and we have very similar interests, and I think we have like similar kinds of like friend groups, so we tend to have a lot to share and talk about. Okay, so that was 4 people. And 5, if you won $1 million and you could only spend on books, bookish related things, how would you spend it? I would channel the funds to librarians. I would donate to the American Library Association. I would donate to librarians. I feel like a lot of the times librarians are under attack with the book bans, and so I would be interested in like funneling money to help librarians, especially with like any kinds of like legal fees that they're facing or any kind of support if needed. I would donate money to my local library to make sure that they had the funding that they needed to serve our community. I've always wanted to have a free little library, so I would maybe try to make that happen, help myself make that happen, or help others make that happen. In my wildest dreams, it would be so easy to have a free little library, and I wouldn't have any issues with my HOA. So, that'd be a easy thing to get through. And yeah, that's kind of like the money would go to libraries, librarians, and free little libraries, and somehow make books more accessible. I would also like to be able to fund or like sponsor writers. So like I would want writers, like I would want to have money set aside to help writers who are like starting out be able to have funds to help them be able to take the time to write like their books. So that would be something that I would really want to help make that happen for people who are in the writing process, who are just trying to get started and just maybe need some financial support. So I mean, I think it's so cool when people want to publish something, but oftentimes writers are juggling a lot of like stuff, like they're working and trying to write, and sometimes people just need to have that financial support to make their dreams happen. So if I had $1 million, I definitely would want to help people who need the financial support to make their dreams happen. So that's something that's really important to me, and I think I would want to help up and coming like new authors be able to make that happen. And then we all benefit from having more own voices and more people breaking through their imagination and making things like making reality, like new realities and new ideas and new stories. That'd be amazing. So that's my wildest dream tag. Thank you again to Heather for creating this tag, and lots of love and thanks to Katherine and Mimi for tagging me. Who am I going to tag? I think this tag has been going around for a while, and I don't know who has done it. So I'm just going to say, if you haven't done this tag and you want to do it, please do it. I'm thinking of people, but I think I may be the last person in BookTube to get to this tag. So please do it if you want to talk about your bookstore dreams or your bookish philanthropic dreams. Join in the conversation. I'd love to hear it, and let me know. Tag me and let me know you've done it so I can watch your video. Thank you so much for watching this, and we'll talk soon. Hasta la próxima.